Tonight we welcome Debbie Solaris back for the second time. I am so excited to have her on again. She is a very well-known galactic Akashic reader, Arcturian starseed, and her story is fascinating. She's going to be talking all about the Akashic Records, developing these skills and abilities, and all about her relationship with her Arcturian star family. Before we get started, if you are interested in CBD or finding a new CBD supplier, I've partnered with Hopewell Farms, and you can get 10% off this very high quality CBD. I take it every single day. It helps with meditation. It helps with my health in general, and we have 10% off with code Lily10 in the description. And I have a channel DNA activation available in the description. It's a 1-hour channel DNA activation to help you activate your DNA, your gifts, along with a workshop that will also help you to connect with your star family. So if you want to bump it up to the next level, make contact, activate your DNA, then there is a link in the description. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Starseed Chats. My name is Lily Noah, and we have Debbie Solaris here again for a part 2. I'm super excited to have you on again, Debbie. So you're a galactic Akashic reader and just a wonderful Arcturian starseed. I think it's funny because recently I've noticed that everybody that I have on is an Arcturian starseed. So I think we just click. Like, I'm drawn to you guys.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you're from Arcturus too, but if you are, then not really. I didn't think so, but
No, but we work together a lot.
yeah, totally. Yeah. So no, I'm just great. I'm just thankful to be back here because we've had such a great last show together that and it felt like we barely scratched the surface with the topics we were talking about. So hopefully we can do more of a deeper dive this time around.
Yeah. So on our, just in case anybody hasn't seen it, so the last interview with Debbie, we really deep dived into her fascinating first contact stories and experiences with the Arcturians, her Arcturian star family. So if you want to go check that out. And today I was thinking we'll talk a little bit more about your connection with your Arcturian star family, your communication, maybe your soul gifts, and then the Akashic Records.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds exciting. Okay, so let's see. Where do we start here? I guess let's start with your Arcturian star family.
Okay,
so
sounds good.
Yeah, so you're an Arcturian starseed. Your first two, you had like 2 major experiences where you went up on the ship. And then your gifts started to come online. So I was wondering, like, can you tell us a little bit of background? Like, what were those beginning stages like of communication and connection with your star family? So it's telepathic. How did they communicate with you?
You're talking about after my experiences on board the ship?
Yeah,
Like in real time? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's kind of an interesting story, actually. I always kind of chuckle when I look back on it because Arcturian guides, they're kind of rough on us sometimes. I mean, they put us through some lessons and some little exercises that are sometimes pretty wild when you're first encountering them, and then when you look back on it, it's like, oh, okay, that now I see the purpose of this whole crazy goose chase that they had us go through. But to answer your question, I did notice that after my 2 extraterrestrial contact experiences where I was on board the Arcturian starship, that a lot of my intuitive gifts really came online. And I was finding that I was downloading a lot of information, and that there was a lot of I was having a lot of extraterrestrial, not extraterrestrial, but extrasensory experiences, like interdimensional traveling, astral traveling, seeing UFOs all the time. And I'll get to the UFO story in a moment, but I did find that as I was, just getting used to having, experiencing all these new gifts, that I was starting to hear kind of clairaudiently messages from my guides. At first, my guides were, they were kind of a little bit gentler. They were, just sending me song messages, because I used to used to commute to work, and my commute was like an hour commute from Castle Rock to Colorado Springs, and so I would always get like a little song message. Like the very first song that would come on the radio would be my song message for the day. And I thought, oh, this is kind of cute. You know, my guides are communicating me in this really cute way. And then as I got used to that, they started communicating more with me telepathically. And I was able to hear them through, clairaudience, so I was getting this kind of clairaudience downloads. And I remember asking my guides, the very first thing I asked them was, how do I communicate with you better? I'm kind of new to this. I don't know really what I'm doing. And my guides told me that, oh, well, you need to meditate on a daily basis. And I was just like, meditate, I was like, I hate meditation. I just hate it because I'm somebody, I love my monkey mind. I love, all the little thoughts I have in my head, so so I was like, no, I'm not going to meditate. And my guide said, well, that's the only way you're going to be able to really connect with us. So my guides, they gave me this vision. Okay, so my guides are crazy. I chuckle at some of the little exercises they put me through. So they told me that I needed to learn meditation from the Zen Buddhist monks in Crestone, Colorado. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with Colorado, Crestone is a really tiny little town in the middle of frickin' nowhere in the San Luis Mountains. And it's considered to be, quote unquote, the Sedona of Colorado because there's very high energy vortexes in Crestone, but it's not as commercial as Sedona. It's a little podunky little town. There's not much to it, so a lot of people, when they go to Crestone, they think, oh, wow, this is the Sedona of Colorado. And then they go there and they're really disappointed because there's only like 4 little blocks and, and everything's kind of rustic there, but it does have really amazing energy there. So I found a Buddhist center and hold on, I think I'm getting a call. Let me down. So I got to, so they had this little Zen Buddhist center and it was beautiful. It was a beautiful place. And so I reached out to them and asked if we could stay with them. And they said, yes, we allow guests to stay with us. So we stayed in one of their cabins and ate meals with the Zen Buddhist monks and went through their meditations, daily meditations. So they do meditations like 5:30 in the morning and then also another one at 6 p.m. after dinner. And it was a wild experience. So there, Zen Buddhist meditation methods are very structured. They have, and I think that's what my guides were trying to teach me, was a sense of structure, that I needed to learn to structure my spiritual practice. And so my husband also came with me. So he was there with me. And for a week, we just learned how to meditate with the Zen Buddhist monks. And I got a lot more practice with my meditation practice, so now every day I meditate. I still don't like it very much. I'm still, I have a tendency to get distracted like a lot of people do, but I do make that a daily practice. So before I do anything else in the morning, I meditate. And I usually try to meditate at least 10, 15 minutes. Doesn't have to be a long, drawn out process. When we meditated with the Zen Buddhist monks, it was for an hour, so it was pretty long. And during one of the meditations I did, so they have like a special meditation building that you have to go through this whole ritual of, entering, in and out of. One of the times I meditated, I actually found myself levitating. Like I was actually, my consciousness was beyond the building, and I was looking down on the building. And I was thinking, I wonder how far I can go. And then I got a little bit scared. And then swoop, my my soul went back into my body. I could even see like through the roof, so I was able to see where the Zen Buddhist monks were meditating, where my husband was at, and it was kind of cool. But then I just, that little bit of fear just set in, and then it was like zoop, I was back into my body, and I wasn't levitating anymore. But yeah, meditation is super important when you're connecting with your star people or your star guides. The reason why it is because meditation gets us into that higher vibrational state. And whenever you get into that higher vibrational state, it's like you're meeting your guides halfway. So your guides don't have to come all the way down to the third dimension. They're actually able to meet you in maybe the fourth dimension. So since then, I've had other crazy experiences with my guides. I'll tell you guys two more little short stories, and then we'll get into wrapping up this question. But the other thing my guides had me do was, and again, it was at Crestone. They love Crestone for some reason. I think it's because there's an Arcturian portal in the San Luis Mountains. So it was a logical place for me to go and get downloads, or experience my little exercises with my guides. But one time I was in meditation. This was after that first experience, and my guides were showing me this vision of me flying a kite, and then I became the kite, and I was asking them, "What's this about?" And they said, "Well, we want you to go back to Crestone and fly a kite." And I was like, "Okay, I've never flown a kite in my life." I was one of those kids, I didn't really get into kite flying, So I purchased just a little kite from Amazon, and it just so happened that a week later I was invited to be part of a women's retreat. So I thought, oh, that's in Crestone. So I thought, oh, that's perfect, so I'll be able to fly my kite then. And then I did get an opportunity to fly my kite amongst the San Luis Mountains. And I got massive downloads. That was when my guides first showed me what my true mission was going to be. So they were giving me a lot of information. It kind of felt like I was getting information from the Arcturian portal through the kite itself, and it was downloading into me as I was holding the kite. And it was just such an amazing experience that I just have never forgotten it. The other thing that happened with me too is I found that I was able to telepathically communicate with UFOs, which was pretty wild. So I had one experience where I was seeing a lot of chemtrails in the sky. I was commuting to work, and I was in my car, and I looked up and I saw all these chemtrails. And I started crying because it just felt like, what are they doing to our planet? Spraying all these chemtrails. And just as I was thinking that, I heard a voice in my head say my name. It was my actual name, not Debbie Solaris, but my actual given name. And I kept thinking, who's saying my name? And then they said, look up. And then I looked up and I saw two cylindrical UFOs, and they were in the sky, and they were this golden color. And I was amazed. I was just like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like that. And they were erasing the chemtrails. And I was like, wow, they're helping us. And so I asked them, are you here to help us or hurt us? And they said, we're here to help you. And I heard that very clearly, telepathically in my head, so I was just amazed, and I just started crying some more, because I was just like, oh wow, our star family's here to help us, so, and then the two cylindrical UFOs disappeared after that, but for sure I did see them. The other thing about meditation is that it does open you up to the higher vibrational or higher dimensions. So then you are able to connect with UFOs. You're going to see UFOs more often. You're going to be communicating with your star guides or your star family. The other thing too is, this is something that I think for people that are new to communicating with higher dimensional beings, you always want to protect yourself. So you always want to do some sort of a shielding exercise, or not that you're wanting to block your guides, but you want to block any lower dimensional beings that might be trying to pretend to be your guides, because sometimes they can play havoc with us, especially for people that aren't practiced with it. They'll come in and pretend to be like one of your guides, and they're very good at it. So you always want to put up some sort of shielding exercise. I do what's called the Arcturian bubble, and this is just my own thing, but I've taught it to many of my clients and my students. But what you do is imagine a swirling blue and white light that's coming directly from the Arcturus star system. It's going to enter your crown chakra, and then you're going to create this toric field around your body. And that's a really quick, easy way. I mean, you just have to kind of visualize what that's going to look like. And it's a really quick, easy way to create a protective bubble around you. I even do it around my car. Like if I'm traveling someplace and I feel like I need extra protection, and even around my house, so it's really super easy exercise to protect yourself from any malevolent spirits that might want to mess with your field. So but yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. I actually I love sharing those stories because they're so meaningful to me, and hopefully they inspire others.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for sharing. That was literally perfect. And I just wanted to add, whenever my star family, well, I didn't even know they were my star family yet. I started seeing these UFOs. So you mentioned like communication was kind of subtle at first. Your guides,
Yeah, it was subtle. Yeah.
yeah, like your guides would communicate with you through a song on the radio, and things like that. A big way that they started communicating with me was through signs in the cloud. So they would make a strand of DNA. They would
Oh
make
wow, cool.
Yeah, they would make an eye. I thought I was going crazy. I was like, every time I went outside, I just saw a big eye. And yeah, so that's how it started. And then as I progressed and began meditating, like you said, more that better communication begins to open up.
Yeah, totally. And I think, part of the thing is you don't want to second guess it, because I think what happens is a lot of people second guess it, and then they get into a little bit of a fear mode, and then it cuts off the connection. So you just want to be open to it, be receptive, let it be whatever it is, and sometimes it's not going to look exactly what you think it's going to look like. You're not going to get these beautiful visions. And, it might start off like a really simple, like maybe they're going to show you like symbols, or maybe you'll see animal totems, the animals that show up in your field. I think it's just dependent on what's specific to your star family. But and I can't really, I think, quantify like which star family will send you what kind of messages. I think it's very individual, but it's really cool how your guides were able to help you through clouds. It was I mean, because that was something maybe you were very tuned into. I don't know, but
Yeah, I was a astrophotographer at the time, so I was always looking up at the sky.
yeah, and I was always in my car listening to music, so that was my guys' way of reaching out to me, because they knew that I loved music, and it was very meaningful. I mean, some of the song messages they gave me were so meaningful that I started crying. It was just like, wow, I can't believe I'm hearing this. And usually it was very specific to the lyrics. Like, the lyrics kind of related to what I was dealing with at that time or that day. So yeah, really, really awesome topic. I just I love Arcturian guides, but they can be kind of, I don't know, kind of rough on us, I think sometimes. I know some of those examples I gave you weren't that rough, but my guides actually, when I was actually diagnosed with breast cancer in 2016. I think a lot of people have heard bits and pieces of my, health recovery story, but I remember communicating with my guides about having cancer, and they told me, well, you kept saying that you didn't want to be here, so we're giving you an option. Either you want to stay and do your mission, okay, or you can check out, so that we're giving you the cancer to check out, so I was like, no, I want to stay, no, and ever since then, I don't ever say anymore that I don't want to be here. I know a lot of star seeds will say that because they're awakening and they're realizing, wow, I'm in this really crazy 3D reality. And but my guides were pretty adamant, and they were also pretty harsh with me regarding my 3D job. They told me back in it was actually in 2016 also, when I got the breast cancer, that they told me that I needed to leave my job. And I was like, I can't leave my job. I had a government job. I was vested in the, retirement system. I still got a few years to go, before I can retire. And believe me, after you've been in a place for 17 years, you want that retirement, so I was arguing with my guides, like, I can't retire now. I can't do it. And then it was just like I got hit with one illness after another, after another, after another. And finally I just said, okay, whatever it takes, I'm gonna retire early. And so I took a lot of my Akashic earnings, because I was saving up my, because I was doing Akashic readings at the side, speaking of Akashic, readings, but I was taking a lot of my earnings and just saving them. And then I used the savings to do a service purchase so I could retire 2 years early and still get my full retirement. So that's how I was able to leave my 3D job for good. But and keep my husband happy and keep, the family happy, because everybody in my family was criticizing me, and I was fighting with my husband because I wanted to leave the job, so it's all. So sometimes your guides will give you challenges also, and it may not be exactly what you think it will be. It might be a really hard decision that you might have to make, and it is what it is. But I nowadays I listen to my guides. I don't question them. I just, okay, whatever you want me to do, I'll just go ahead and do it. And they haven't steered me wrong yet. So it's worthwhile to invest the time to meditate, to keep your vibration high, to do whatever it takes to open up those channels between yourself and your higher guidance. The other thing that we do with Akashic clearings is that a lot of times my clients will tell me, hey, I can't connect with my guides. And then through the Akashic clearing process, I realized that they're chakra 9, but chakra 9 is actually at the top of our auric field. It's part of the out of body chakras that I think a lot of us are not really that aware of, unless we're, more intermediate to advanced on the spectrum as far as spiritual studies. But a lot of times I'm looking at their chakra 9, and their chakra 9 is completely blocked. So through Akashic clearings, I'm able to help them unblock that chakra 9. And more often than not, my clients will report back to me that, oh yeah, now I have a much more clear channel between myself and, my higher guides, so that's another method you can use to open up communications with the star family.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's so funny because I was actually just about to ask you about working with the chakras. I found that super helpful. opening up a channel, and then also, yeah, healing, clearing, all of that. And we're actually doing a chakra series right now. So we're doing about to do chakra 8, the soul star, right below that.
Oh yeah, that is right below it. Yeah, yeah. I work with chakra 8 a lot too. Yeah, that's awesome.
Wow, so
Yeah,
exciting. So
yeah.
by the time this airs, we may be up to chakra 9. So be sure
Yeah,
to.
chakra 9. Yeah, that's a big one as far as connecting with your higher self and guidance. Chakra 8 is more karmic, I think. It's more of a karmic timing, a lot of timing stuff. I just did a clearing for a client yesterday that had a chakra 8 blockage, and she was finding that like she just couldn't get aligned with anything. It was just like, like she just was like in this nebulous kind of, like she was living this nebulous kind of reality, and she wasn't getting aligned with her, her higher purpose. And so that's a lot of times due to a blockage with chakra 8, because you're not aligned with your true timeline. Um, so that is a lot of the work that we do with Akashic clearings, is trying to help people get aligned with their original cosmic blueprint. So instead of in this Earth avatar, thing that they're currently kind of stuck in. So I like to help people with that kind of thing. And so it's awesome that you're doing like a whole series on even these higher chakras, because I think more people need to know about them. Because in actuality, our soul is actually in the auric field. It's not inside the body. It's actually anchored to our bodies. So the more work you can do with the outer chakras, the more that you'll be able to manifest exactly what you want to create in your reality. So that's super important. I can't wait to see the rest of your series.
Yeah, we started from the root and worked our way up. That's how my star family taught me to do it. And I was stuck in
Yeah.
the root for a little while. There was a lot of trauma and stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah, that root chakra. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, no, it's not fun. Yeah, no, I had to do a lot of root chakra and throat chakra work for myself personally. I had physical issues. I'm hypothyroid, and then I also so I suffer from that. That's not, unfortunately, not something I've been able to cure yet. But I also suffered from hyperparathyroidism, which is the glands at the back of your neck. So there's 4 little glands. 3 of them had tumors, so I had to get 3 of them removed. But I still got the one little guy in there, working away, helping keep my calcium levels balanced. But yeah, I had to do a lot of throat chakra work and a lot of root chakra. Totally. A lot of trauma there with root chakra.
For sure. Yeah, that's your base of like that's where the fear, that's your sense of safety. So if you ever feel like afraid, anxiety, yeah, it
Totally.
probably, yeah, anytime you felt afraid, that's probably in your root chakra.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah. And we deal with a lot of fear programs when we do the Akashic clearings. It's a lot of fear, a lot of self-punishment programs. There's just layers and layers of it.
Right. Like shame, feeling bad about yourself.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, so you mentioned Akashic clearing. So what do you mean by that? Is that
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
what is your take on that?
my process. So I probably do clearings very differently than how a lot of people, or how a lot of practitioners do clearings. So I do balance out the chakras, so I do a lot of that with my Akashic clearing method. But to me, what happens with the Akashic records sometimes is that it's not that the records get changed so much, but we get kind of stuck in alternate dimensional patterns or alternate dimensional timelines that we can't seem to break out of for some reason. And maybe this is a soul choice to experience it, but sometimes we might have some outdated soul contracts that never really got disconnected, or we might be dealing with old karmic patterns that just keep running and running, even though we're long past the lessons, you know. So I developed this method of Akashic clearing because I just noticed that a lot of my clients, no matter what work they were doing, were feeling really stuck, and I wanted to help them to get unstuck. So I utilize kind of various methods with my process. So initially, I'm looking at all the chakras. So I look at, you know, chakras 1 through 7, chakras 8 through 12. And then I also look at the secondary chakras. A lot of people aren't aware that we also have secondary. We have 32 secondary chakras and those can get blocked. And those can really mess us up, you know, because then we're just running these karmic loops over and over and over again. So I'm looking at all of these with the client's guides and looking at, okay, where are they blocked at? And usually that gives me kind of an indication of maybe what programs they're running, you know, that are outmoded, or, you know, or what entities might be influencing their stuck energy. So sometimes it could be outside forces that might be keeping us really blocked, you know, because dark beings are always trying to keep us from awakening and doing our missions, you know, so they'll try to play havoc with us, you know, a lot of times. And then after that, I do actually access their records to see, okay, what specific lifetimes have these karmic patterns that they're continuously running, you know, so why are they running these patterns? And then after that, so the guides will usually let me know if it's an off-world lifetime, or if it's an Earth lifetime, or if it's an alternate dimension, or a future timeline, or maybe it was something that happened while they were in the womb, you know, as they were coming into this incarnation. So it really kind of breaks it down. And also there's a thing called between lives, where a lot of people make contracts, and whether it be a planetary contract or a soul contract with certain individuals, in that in-between space before we incarnate. Okay, so and Arcturians, we're all about that in-between space, because we're the ones that process the souls before they incarnate. So a lot of times folks will make contracts, and they can't seem to break out of the contract, or they can't seem to resolve it, you know. So so we are actually able to assist them in that area too. The Tibetans actually called that the between life bardo. So and it's a very important thing to look at when you're doing clearing work, because sometimes people are making contracts with extraterrestrial beings and they're not even aware of it. I had a client who recently had a extraterrestrial experience where he was brought on board a ship and was had some DNA removed, and we found out that he made a contract to be part of the hybridization program, and he didn't even realize it, you know. So not that it's necessarily a bad thing, so I don't want to paint it as a bad thing. It's actually a lot of times a very beneficial mutual contract for both the recipient, you know, or the donator and the recipients. But but sometimes we're not aware of it, so we'll have experiences and we don't understand what those experiences are about, you know. So doing this Akashic clearing work will help give the client some answers about that, you know. So so with that being said, what we end up doing at the end of the clearing is that we will set new intentions in their Akashic records. So basically, I use something called the self-sovereignty invocation. I'm all about self-sovereignty, about getting aligned with our original cosmic blueprint. And from there, you know, a lot of times I'll help them get aligned with who they truly are and with their actual star families, you know. So part of that whole invocation process is realigning them with their star families and with their, true higher dimensional connections. And we disconnect them also from any old timelines, realities, matrices, grids that are no longer serving their highest good. It's a method that I hope to be teaching. I don't know if I'll be able to teach it this year. Hopefully I will be able to. If not, we'll definitely start teaching it next year. Right now I am teaching a course called the Galactic Akashic Records Reading Course. And we have about a little under 300 students that are taking that course. And it's a deep dive into our connections with our extraterrestrial star families, the galactic history of these star locations, and how they assisted planet Earth, or what their contribution to planet Earth is, along with just learning how to read the records. So it's kind of a basic tutorial of how to read the records, along with that added layer of galactic history. But I am going to be developing a course on galactic Akashic clearings. So so that'll be coming in the future. So in the near future. So I think people will really like that.
Yeah, that sounds super important. That's one of the things that I like to reaffirm, especially if I'm ever having a difficult time struggling with something, or maybe something doesn't seem right. I always reaffirm and make sure like I am on my highest timeline.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's super important. I mean, because you don't want to be stuck in the bad timeline. I mean, that's not beneficial to anybody. And sometimes people are kind of stuck in the. I don't know if it's a bad timeline, but just not the optimal timeline. And we don't want to be stuck in that nebulous timeline. We want to be in the optimal timeline. The one that's really going to help us step into our greatest potential while we're here. The other thing I do want to mention is that all of us as star people, or star seeds, light workers, whatever title you want to associate with, we all came here to be successful. I think sometimes people feel that oh, I don't know what I'm doing is right. They second guess it a lot. And it's like, I don't think the guides are necessarily going to tell us, oh, you got to do this or you got to do that, unless it's for, just soul growth purposes. But as far as our missions, we get to choose our missions, so, and whatever we choose, we're going to be successful at it, especially when we get that chakra 12 aligned. Chakra 12 is the entire auric field. So, so once we get that aligned, we're going to be super successful at whatever we set out to do, as long as it's for the service to others orientation. So so I just want to reassure people that we have a lot more protection and a lot more assistance than we think we do. They're not letting us float out there, all by ourselves. Although I did think that for a long time I felt very alone, for many, many years. And now I have almost daily communication with my guides. I just feel like they're always around me, and they've helped me a lot, through this earth walk. So very, very grateful for my connection. And if people are wondering who my guides are, it's the Arcturian Collective. That's my major guides. Occasionally I'll connect with some Pleiadian guides, or I'll connect with Syrian guides, or with ascended masters or angels. But I would say the majority of the time I connect with my star family, which is the Arcturian Collective.
And even if, for people in the audience, even if you don't know who exactly your star family is yet, you can always set the intention and ask, I would like to connect with my star family of the highest love and light. Make sure that they're the high vibe ones.
Oh, totally. Yeah, no, And I think a lot of times people have, I mean, I get like a lot of folks that second guess like what downloads they're getting. And a lot of times they're pretty right on, you know, because they'll tell me like, oh, I keep hearing Andromeda and I don't know what that means. And then I check into their records and I was like, well, it's because you came from Andromeda Galaxy, you know, or, speaking of Andromeda Galaxy, you know, or, you know, I, or you're connected to, you know, some star system in the Andromeda constellation, you know. So I think usually the downloads people get are most often more correct than not, you know. So trust whatever you receive.
Right. That's what, so for a lot of my Akashic readings, I like to also like ask people questions and kind of see where they're at. A lot of the time they did intuitively
Hmm.
know. So it's just like a huge confirmation.
Oh yeah, totally, totally. Yeah. I mean, I think sometimes it's good to get validation or confirmation from somebody else if you're questioning it. I mean, it's not like, you know, it's a bad thing to want maybe someone else's opinion or someone else looking at your field or your Akashic records, um, but I wouldn't say don't discount whatever you're getting as well. You know, don't discount it because there's a reason why you're getting it.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. For sure. Yeah, the intuition is just, it's a huge, huge part of it. Like an example, whenever I they started communicating with me, I would see lions and tigers a lot. Then eventually I realized, oh, I'm Lyran. These are my
Hmm.
Lyran guides, you know, kind of like little things like that or like symbols. So speaking of Andromeda, since there was a somebody who wanted to ask you, do you get people much from the Andromeda galaxy? Because there's not that much information on that out there. So somebody from the audience was asking about that.
Oh yeah, totally. I'm actually getting more and more Andromeda Galaxy souls with the younger generations, like not so much the first waivers, so not the folks that are in their 60s and 50s so much, but maybe some of the second and third wave folks. So those are folks that were born in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond. I'm getting more and more of those folks. A little bit about Andromeda Galaxy Soul Group. Maybe I'll start from there, and then we'll get into some of their personality traits and gifts. But the Andromeda Galaxy Soul Group were actually the co-creators of this galaxy. My understanding from the Akashic records is that I think initially the descent into physicality. So each universe goes through this process of descent into, the separation from source and descent into physicality. Initially, I think that process was supposed to happen in Andromeda Galaxy, but it was just too high vibrational to sustain physicality. So the Andromeda Galaxy Soul Group, which is light beings. These are like light angelic type of beings. Who were masters of manipulating frequency. They were able to create stars and nebulas and planets. So these beings decided to create like a baby galaxy that was, similar to the Andromeda galaxy. So the Milky Way was actually birthed from the Andromeda galaxy. So because these beings, the ones that were involved with the creation of the Milky Way, they were so invested into that project, they accompanied the Milky Way when it separated. So a lot of these higher dimensional souls came in through the Antares Stargate, which is the one of two major stargates in our galaxy. So Antares is the portal between our galaxy, the Andromeda galaxy, and even alternate universes. So it's a massive portal. So there's like a gatekeepers of the portal, that are these Ontarian beings. But then the second Stargate is the Arcturus Stargate. So that's where souls get processed, so they can be continue to be a part of this experiment of descent into physicality and separation from source. But getting back to Andromeda Galaxy souls, a lot of them came in through this Antares portal, and they chose to have physical experiences, because they were here. Why not experience what they created, you know. So so I get a lot of them that carry a lot of elemental energy, and more often than not, this is just a generalization, so don't take it to heart. But I notice we get a lot of air sign people that are Andromeda Galaxy souls, like a lot of Libras and Aquariuses and even Geminis, you know, that they seem to be more aligned with the air element. But that's not a hard, fast rule. I do get some Leos that are Andromeda Galaxy souls, or you know, some other star signs, but more often than not, you know, I do see, and I see a lot of third wavers, like a lot of folks that were born in the 90s and the 2000s that are more the Andromeda Galaxy soul group, because I think Earth is now ready for their frequency. So that's why they're choosing to be born later rather than, you know, first wave. Occasionally I will get one or two or like a handful of first wavers that are Andromeda Galaxy souls, but more often than not, they are, you know, the indigo and the crystal and the rainbow children, you know. So as far as their personality traits, I'll get into that and then we'll wrap this question up. They tend to be kind of reserved and pretty much to themselves. You know, um, they tend to live very humbly. You know, I don't get like a lot of Andromeda Galaxy souls that are just out there. You know, I mean, a lot of times they're just quietly doing their work because they're frequency masters. They do tend to be attracted to fields that are either technical, or if it is spiritual, it's energy medicine, or it's, you know, some form of you know, energy healing, you know. So I get a lot of Andromeda Galaxy souls that are drawn to those fields because they like to manipulate energy. You know, this is what they're really good at. And more often than not, I'll see some that will combine technology with energy medicine. Like they might be either creating something that can amplify energy to heal people, or they might be incorporating already created technology into, you know, some of the work that they're doing. But I do get a fair number of them that also are very good with technology. So, you know, some of them might be drawn to the technical fields. And a lot of Andromeda Galaxy souls are system builders, you know, so they came in to create new systems, you know, so that's why we're seeing a lot of them being incarnated into the third wave, you know, rather than first wave, you know, because their mission is different, you know. And usually when they take on a project, or, you know, like a Earth incarnation, they really take it on. Like I see a lot of Andromeda Galaxy souls that go through horrific experiences in their childhood. You know, they go through a lot of trauma, you know, in their childhood. Because they're trying to transcend, you know, all this trauma and karma in order to help raise the consciousness of the planet. So they're very devoted souls. I have a lot of respect for Andromeda Galaxy souls. They don't have it easy here.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem. I'm seeing more and more of these souls. So it's not like it's not as common as being Syrian or Pleiadian, you know, but I'm seeing more and more of these souls, and I have a lot of respect for them. I think they have sacrificed a lot to be here.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I have 3 Andromedan guides that started appearing to me about a year ago, and they were naturally light beings,
Mm-hmm.
and they were teaching me energy healing and telekinesis. Is
Oh,
what they were
wow.
starting
Very
to.
cool. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So that
Yeah.
hit right on the money with them being, you know, masters of you know, energy manipulation and all of that.
Oh, yeah, they are. And just a little guidance for those that might think they are Andromeda Galaxy souls and might be trying to connect with their Andromeda Galaxy families. Andromeda Galaxy beings are very energetic. I mean, they don't necessarily look human. You know, they might look like a blue orb, or they might look like a light being, or they might look like some sort of light being with big light wings. And a lot of times I see this kind of sparkly energy That's how I associate these beings. But because they are mostly frequency workers, they don't necessarily communicate with verbal language. So in order to connect with these type of guides, people might want to learn to read other methods of messaging. So they might be communicating with you through frequency or through color or through sound or through maybe symbols, because that's the way that they're most apt to communicate. They're not very verbal. Sometimes even when I'm doing Akashic readings for people with Andromeda Galaxy connections, and I'm trying to connect with their guides, I sometimes have to ask the Akashic guides to help interpret what they're telling me, because sometimes I don't get it either. I've gotten better at reading their frequency, but sometimes I do need some assistance. And people can do that too. They can ask other guides to help them interpret, if that's appropriate, but that's a little thing about the Andromeda Galaxy guides, because I do work with a lot of them. So they're amazing. I love Andromeda Galaxy. It's an amazing soul family for sure. So if anybody's a part of it, they should be proud. It's a great place to be from.
That's amazing. And I love how you mentioned they may appear as like colors. I tell people, even if they aren't quite receiving like full-blown visions or whatever, whenever they're trying to communicate, these different beings may communicate with you through different colors or symbols. And don't feel bad if you don't get their name, because they may not even speak a language.
As a matter of fact, I get a lot of clients that ask me, what's my guide's name? And I'm just like, they don't really have names. They have energetic frequency that they associate with. Sometimes if they do give us a name, it's just to placate us, like, okay, they want me to give them a name, I'll give them something, but sometimes I don't like that question, because first of all, I'm not that great with downloading names, because a lot of times these higher dimensional beings don't go by names. They go by their energetic frequency. It's like a signature, so so sometimes they might even be maybe just giving us a name just for something to go by. That reminds me of this little story of I have this dear client. I don't know if he still lives in Colorado or not, but he was a local client, and he's very Arcturian, so he was learning to connect with his Arcturian guides. And he had this one guide that was from the Arcturian High Council. And I don't think the guide really wanted to give him a name, but I think he was kept pestering him for a name. So the guide told him, just call me Ramon, So that was his guide was just kind of giving him like a silly name, just so we were kind of chuckling, because Ramon sounds very suave. It's a Spanish name. My client was of Spanish heritage, but I was just laughing because I know that wasn't his real name. But sometimes they will give us a name just for something for us to be attached to, or use. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. My experience is pretty much the same. Like, I don't get names as often. And I have had that conversation where it's like, just to make them happy, do you have a nickname that you would like for them to call you? Type
Yeah, sometimes they might come up with something really silly, just to kind of, I think, mess with us a little bit, or or make us chuckle or laugh. Actually, a lot of people don't realize this, but laughing also raises vibrations. So sometimes when I'm feeling really down in the dumps, or I don't feel like I'm usually a very cheerful person, but sometimes if I'm not feeling quite like myself, I might watch a really clean comedy show, and it gets me chuckling and laughing, and then I feel a lot better. And that's a really quick, easy way to raise vibration.
Right. Definitely. And I wanted to ask about, so for the Akashic Records, you used the Akashic Records to really help change around your health. So I was wondering, do you have, like for me, I accessed the Akashic Records as I was learning this, and the Arcturians are actually the ones who granted me access to it. I became like obsessed with meditating and opening the third eye, and then I was just so blown away whenever like 5 Arcturians appeared, and there was like a doorway, and they were like, now have access to the Akashic Records," and I was like,
Mhm.
so giddy. Um, so that was fun, but I used it to see like my highest timeline. They don't always give me the future, but in
Mhm.
my first time accessing the Akashic Records, trying to read my own, they gave me a piece of that. And I like to also use it as like the highest timeline that we were talking about. And we have gifts and abilities. So that's one of my favorite topics, is
Yeah,
activating
yeah,
your dormant gifts and abilities.
yeah, totally.
Everybody, yeah, everybody has gifts and abilities. You have had these, at least other lifetimes, where you've had these activated, so you can tap into that. Would you like
Mhm.
to speak on that or add anything to that? How people could use that for that?
Oh, absolutely. It's actually one of my favorite topics when it relates to Akashic Records reading, because a lot of us don't seem to realize that, at least here on Earth, that we have more control over our health than we realize. We're not victims here, you know. So, so once we learn and to tap into those other timelines or those other, realities and gifts that we used to have, we can actually incorporate that into this timeline. So just to give a backdrop on what happened with me, I went through a tremendous, health struggle. For, I would say, it was at least 15 years, if not 20 years, where I just had a lot of health struggles. And I didn't understand, what was going on. Why am I having, struggling so much with this stuff? Uh, and before, I used to feel like, oh, maybe it was my poor Earth genetics, or because I come from a family, a Earth family that has a lot of cancer and has a lot of health issues. But as I was learning to work with the Akashic Records and actually teach a little mini course called Mastering Starseed Health, that if people are really interested in knowing what specific illnesses are associated with what specific star lineages they might be. We offer that on the training page of my website under offerings. Just scroll down and you'll find the training page, and you can purchase. I think it's like, I don't know, $65 or something like that. You get like 2 hours of instruction on that. But not that I'm trying to upsell anybody on my trainings, but it's just it kind of relates to this topic. But what I found with my own health process was that, first of all, I had to heal a lot of old trauma from the Lyran Wars. That was the first thing I had to heal. Was a lot of my health issues were old trauma signatures that were in my soul DNA that was getting reactivated because I was going through kind of similar trauma in my Earth life, where, I was going through a lot of stress. I had this job I didn't really like, and I was having problems in my relationships, so it was, activating, all these trauma signatures. So I had to look at first what happened to me in Lyra, because that was where the original trauma started. And then I did some past life regression work around it. And then from there, I also did a couple of QHHT sessions where I was looking at specifically, some past lives, where I went through a lot of trauma, and here on Earth, um, so we can do this also with the Akashic records. So a lot of times when I do, like a reading for somebody that's, Akashic reading, particularly for somebody that has a lot of health issues, I'll look at, what lifetimes did you have your original traumas at? What happened? Why are you bringing this into your current timeline? And so a lot of times I think we'll take on these illnesses in order to help us complete that karmic cycle. So it's kind of like it's giving us an opportunity to resolve it differently. Okay, so maybe in that previous lifetime, we never got an opportunity to resolve that issue. Like maybe we ended up dying from it, or we ended up, maybe not completely healing emotionally from it. So sometimes we recreate these circumstances in our current timeline or our current lifetime in order to give us an opportunity to resolve things differently. And so in my case, I had to process through a lot of anger. I was a very angry individual. So had to process through a lot of that. And I would say anger was probably the main thing, but there was also other emotions I had to process through. But then it was also that I had to really, I think, make a decision on what I was really here to do. So it was my guide's way of giving me an opportunity to make a choice, like a really solid choice. And so I remember telling my guides one time that, guys, if you want me to do this mission, I need to be healthy. Okay, I just need to be healthy. And I was doing this, connecting with the Akashic guides. I was connecting with my Arcturian guides. I was connecting with, other guides, and I was just frustrated. I was, and I said, I am here to do the mission. I am accepting my mission. So I need your assistance as far as helping me to be healthy, so I'll have the energy to do my mission. So at that point, what happened after that, which was kind of funny, was I was very obese at the time. I used to be 75 pounds, 80 pounds heavier than I am currently. But my guides kept showing me advertisements for a bariatric center in Lone Tree, which is really close to where I live. Lone Tree is an area in just south of Denver. And I kept seeing the same ad over and over and over again. I was like, what the heck is this? I didn't even think I was a candidate for bariatric surgery. So I was ignoring it. And then finally, I just said, okay, guys, I'll call them. Okay. I now know this is a message from you. I'm going to call this center. So I did. And I found out that I was, in fact, an excellent candidate for bariatric surgery. And because I had a lot of comorbidities that were associated with my obesity. So I had to go through a whole process to get it approved by my insurance company, my health insurance. But I did have bariatric surgery back in June of 2020, and went through a massive health journey with that. There was a lot of emotional components I had to work through too. So it wasn't just like, oh yeah, I had the surgery and I just lost a bunch of weight. It was also, you have to change your lifestyle completely. So I no longer eat the way I used to. I'm very, very careful with my diet these days. And I exercise a ton. I exercise a lot. I've completely changed my lifestyle. And also I had to do a lot of emotional work. So I did EMDR, I did tapping, I did a lot of emotional deep diving into why I was creating, this condition, in my reality. And I was wanting to just let go of it. I didn't want to be so sometimes, allopathic medicine might be a solution. It's not always just all alternative. Or sometimes usually what happens is that we have to do a combination of allopathic medicine and also alternative medicine. So it's understanding these psychospiritual components of why we might be going through some sort of illness, but but also maybe because we live in physical bodies, you know, we live in these human meat suits, they might need like a physical repair, you know. So in my case, you know, I had to get my stomach made smaller and my intestines rerouted, you know, but and a hiatal hernia repaired, you know, but you know, in other people's cases, you know, maybe they do need some sort of surgery, you know. So so I don't like to necessarily downgrade allopathic medicine or methods that can help us. I'm not a fan of big pharma, though. I have to say, I try. One of my biggest goals after I went through my bariatric surgery was to get off as many medications as I could. And so now the only medication I take, which is really more of a natural compound, is my thyroid medication. So, but I was able to get off 6 or 7 other medications. So, so I'm very proud of that, actually.
That's amazing. Well, you look great, and that's an incredible journey.
Yeah, no, it was quite a journey. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So for others in the audience who may be, you know, going through something, they can also use the Akashic records. It sounds like a lot of like you know, the emotional releasing, clearing, processing. Also, that's huge. Like,
Oh,
yeah.
totally. Yeah. I think that's a big part of healing, actually. The other thing I didn't bring up, but I want to bring up now, if it's okay, is there's also correlations between certain star lineages and the type of illnesses that we might be experiencing, which I do teach in that course. So, you know, if people are really interested in that, you know, we do go through that through the Mastering Starseed Health course. But what I found through doing thousands of Akashic readings for people of various that suffer from various health conditions is that there's actually a pattern between what their star lineage is and maybe what they're suffering from. And I know that sounds crazy, but it actually has a lot of alignment with that. So just to give you a couple of examples, you know, just to maybe just to pique interest in the audience. But I noticed with Lyran starseeds, you say you're from Lyra or you're connected with Lyra, but Lyran starseeds, because they went through massive trauma, you know, during the Lyran wars, they carry a lot of trauma signatures in their soul DNA. So what happens is when they're in the higher realms, you know, like they're incarnating in the Pleiades or Sirius or Andromeda or wherever, you know, they're totally okay, you know. Or but what happens when they incarnate on planet Earth, because Earth is so dense, you know, we have this 3D reality that we're dealing with. They might start off being healthy, you know, for a while. And then they'll go through some sort of traumatic event or some sort of really stressful period in their life. Like maybe they're having, you know, marital issues, or, you know, they're struggling at work, you know, or something happens, they get into a car accident, and then they start they start manifesting all these illnesses. And for Lyrans, it's usually autoimmune conditions. So it's usually something that is systemic all over the body. So it would be, to give you an example, like chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, lupus, multiple sclerosis, you know, rheumatoid arthritis. So I get a lot of Lyran starseeds that suffer from these conditions until they start really looking at maybe some of their past lives and looking at why they're creating this. And once they realize, oh, okay, you know, I might be creating this because I'm reliving some sort of past life trauma, then they're able to, they're on their way of resolving it, you know. So it's first of all, it's always about the recognition of the condition. Like, okay, where is this coming from? You know, and then from there, they can take steps to resolve it on a physical level. Another star system that I see like this common condition with is Pleiadians. I get a lot of Pleiadians for some reason, Pleiadian starseeds that suffer from blood sugar issues. So this would be like diabetes or pre-diabetes. And I think the reason for that is because Pleiadians, when they live in their home worlds, they live in a very supportive environment where they get a lot of love and support from other Pleiadians, so they have this beautiful environment that they're living in. And then they come to Earth and things are really shitty on planet Earth, so they feel like, gosh, where's the sweetness? I don't have the sweetness in my life anymore. So they'll start developing these diabetic, or blood sugar issues. And it doesn't necessarily have to be diabetes. Sometimes it could be also the opposite, which is the hypo version of it, hypoglycemic, I guess. So some of them might develop hypoglycemia, but then once they realize that, this is not the Pleiades, I got to learn to adapt to this reality and maybe change their diets or maybe make some lifestyle changes. A lot of times, they are able to recover or at least manage their diabetes quite a bit better. So those are just a couple of examples. Arcturian starseeds, we have a tough time. I don't know. It's like the Arcturians and the Andromedans. I think a lot of that is because we don't have a lot of genetics here on planet Earth. So a lot of times we're just kind of incarnated in some family that, might have like a smidgen of Arcturian DNA or a smidgen of Andromedan DNA. And so we're not very well integrated to this dense physical reality. So we'll start developing cancer or a lot of endocrinological issues. Sorry, I can't pronounce that word. I don't know why, but thyroid issues or problems with hormones, that sort of thing. So we really struggle with that. And we have to go through a very similar process as the Lyran Pleiadian, starseeds do, where we have to kind of look at, maybe some past life components or, some psycho-spiritual components of that. But for me, I kind of got the gamut. I got everything. It's like I got the, the health dump, it was just like I suffered from everything almost, but now I'm the healthiest I've ever been. I think even healthier than I was in my 20s, so I'm very, very grateful to my guides. Thank you. Love you guides. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, you went through. What was that?
Thank you for allowing me to share that because I think it's kind of interesting to see the correlations.
Yeah, definitely. And so you went through, you went through a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. Yeah, it was. I'm amazed I'm still alive sometimes. It was.
Wow.
It was so hard. I mean, it was. I could see why there was times where I didn't want to be here. Because it was just really hard to deal with. But now I'm really happy I'm here. I'm happy to be a part of this earth walk, if you want to call it that. So
yeah, that's amazing. And you went through all of that so that you could help so many people.
Yeah, thanks. No, I that's why I'm devoted to the mission. I'm devoted to helping as many people as I can, while still protecting my energy and protecting, my, because I do have, a life outside of, being a galactic Akashic reader, galactic historian. So, but I am devoted to helping as many people as I can. I remember telling my husband once that I was definitely going to ensure that we all make it to the 5th dimension, and that I was going to take as many people with me as I could, because I would like to see that manifest in this timeline. So so that's where I'm at. So hopefully it, we'll be able to create some additional courses, and I will be on Beyond Belief again on Gaia. So people will see me on Beyond Belief. I think they're taping the show next month. So, and on open minds. And if guys can catch me, I was on the last season of Deep Space. So, if you're interested in that show on Gaia, you do see me pop in there from time to time. So, so there's that one too.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll have to check out the Deep Space one. I haven't seen that yet. Well, thank you so much, Debbie, for coming on. It was so wonderful chatting with you again.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, this was a little more more of a deep dive into some of those topics that I think people are really interested in. So I appreciate the opportunity to share. Thank you so much.
Of course, yeah, and people need to hear this.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah. I think the message I want to send across to folks is that we're not a victim of circumstances. I mean, we all have the power to change our realities and to change any aspect of our Earth experience that is not beneficial to us, or doesn't feel like we're really in alignment with it. So we all have the opportunities to do that, and we can use the Akashic records to do that. Totally.
Right. And I'd like to add, because there was somebody who had asked about like connecting with their guides or Akashic records if they don't have any spiritual gifts. So I would just like to reiterate that everybody has spiritual gifts.
Yeah, everybody does. Yeah, no, I always say that too. Yeah, everybody does. Yeah, none of us are more special than the other. Like I feel like the gifts I have, anybody can develop. It's not not like I have a special cosmic password or anything. So
right. Yeah, you just need to recognize that the universe is communicating with you. It may be subtle at first, and it's like a muscle.
Yeah,
But
totally.
you also have to be dedicated. Like,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We spent the time to meditate and work at it.
Yeah, no, it takes practice. I mean, that's one of the things I keep telling my students in my Akashic course that's currently ongoing right now, is that it takes practice. I mean, it even took me practice. I mean, I didn't just, bang, wake up and all of a sudden, I was into, reading the records. It took a lot of practice on my part and a lot of dedication, because this is like a muscle, and we've been trained, I think, here on Earth, not to trust our intuitions. We've been programmed to believe that everything that we encounter, we have to look at with the analytical mind. And so a lot of us have learned to turn off our intuitive aspects of ourselves. But with some of these, modalities and practices, it's helping us to tune back into those gifts. So don't get discouraged if it doesn't come to you right away.
Right. Definitely. And I wanted to ask, that was actually one of my questions. So whenever and then we'll wrap it up. Whenever this first started happening to you, how long did it take? Did you spend basically on developing your gifts before you started, let's say, offering Akashic readings? Like, kind of how long was your training period, do you think?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. Actually, after my 2 extraterrestrial contact experiences, I spent at least 3 years just taking spiritual classes. I mean, I took a lot of spiritual classes. I mean, it was like a deep dive into spirituality for 3 years. And I didn't really know what I was supposed to do. So it wasn't like, oh, I got this download. No, okay, now all of a sudden, I'm doing Akashic readings. It was kind of a journey for me, So I was taking one class after another, when I was still living in Colorado Springs. And then when I moved to Castle Rock, there was actually a Reiki center in downtown Castle Rock where the practitioner who was an amazing lady named Olivia Lundberg, offered a lot of training in not just Reiki, but also developing your clair gifts and reading the Akashic records. So I took a lot of her courses, and that was when I realized that, I have a gift for reading the records. I think I was already getting downloads, but it wasn't like it wasn't like I really recognized where the information was coming from at first. So when I started taking trainings in my hometown of Castle Rock, that was when I started realizing that, I have a gift for connecting with the records. But anybody can develop the gift. It's not like, only a few can do Akashic Records readings. It's like QHHT, everybody can do QHHT. Everybody can learn to do Reiki, so it's just a matter of going through learning the process of it. But it took me a few years, actually. I didn't really start doing Akashic readings professionally until maybe the latter part of 2014. And then I had to take a break from it when I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2016. So I didn't do any readings for a year, maybe a little under a year. But I've been doing Akashic readings now for almost a decade. So it's become a very big part of my life. And I always joke with my husband that I spend 65% of my time in the Akashic Records, because that's how big of a, but yeah, it does take a while. It's not like, it doesn't come like automatic. So if anything, I hope my journey will help some people feel encouraged, as they go through their own development of their gifts. It's not like an automatic thing.
Right. That was such a beautiful answer. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, super, super important. Even people who come to the live activations I do on Sundays, a lot of people they're already having these experiences and things happening.
Oh yeah, no, I think I'm amazed at some of the experiences my students are already having, and we haven't even really gotten to the meat of the course yet. And I'm very, very proud of a lot of them. I mean, they're really diving into it. And I think we need to have more Galactic Akashic readers out there, because I think more and more of us are awakening, and more people are needing help, with accessing the records.
Right, for sure. Yeah, it brings a lot of clarity and activation in itself, just that remembering who you truly are.
Oh yeah, no, it is an activating kind of reading. A lot of my clients will report afterwards that it's life-changing for them, it's which amazes me, because I mean, I don't think I'm anybody special, but it's like, I'm just helping you facilitate the process, but or interpret, what downloads I'm getting in the records. But it is a life-changing experience if you're lucky enough to have that. So
for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Debbie. Do you want to share with everybody where they can find you?
Yes, I'll be happy to do that. Probably the best way to contact me is through my website, which is debbiesolaris.com. So it's DEBBIESOLARRS, just like my name is spelled, .com. I am going through a revamping of my website, so my website might be changing dramatically in the next month or so. But one of the things that we are going to be offering soon is crystal kits that are associated with certain star systems. So that's going to be available for retail sale on my website pretty soon. So if you're interested in that, please, feel free to check back in another month or so. The other thing I do want to say is that regarding personal readings, I have so many on my waiting list. I can't really take any new names at this time. Maybe that'll change in the future, but right now I am inundated with people that want readings with me. But if you're interested in any of the trainings I offer, we do have a training page. It's kind of a pay-per-view where you pay for the training. And I've tried to keep it very affordable for folks, and you get access to the Kajabi link that takes you through that training. I'm not taking any registrations anymore for the Galactic Akashic reading course. We're well underway with that. So we are going to offer it again next year. So if people are interested, just connect, subscribe to my site, and we'll let you know when we offer it again. So that's basically it. I'm also on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, so you can follow me there. Not on TikTok yet. I'm not a TikTok person. Sorry, just not into that. But And I'm not Twitter person either, but I am on some social media. So that's pretty much it, I guess, I think.
All right, perfect. So wonderful speaking with you again. Everybody, if you'd like to drop a comment, have any questions or comments for Debbie or me or the show, if you enjoyed the show, please give this a like. And I will see you later, Star Brothers and Sisters.
Bye, everybody.